Hi everyone, this week we've been learning about lists and dictionaries, common data collections in Python. In this lesson we're going to examine two other data types, data collections, that show up fairly frequently but not as frequently as lists and dictionaries. Tuples show up often in the context of web scraping, so that's one to take a look out for. Sets have some very interesting properties which you will investigate as part of the homework assignment based on this lesson. So I'm going to go through sets, what they can do, what they can't do. I have linked to sources for both sets and tuples, which I encourage you to take a look at because you'll see even more information about sets, and it's always good for us to practice looking at documentation. Because that's the world we live in with open source software. So what is a set? A set is a collection that is unordered and unindexed. In Python, sets are written with curly brackets, and here is an example of what a set looks like. We have items separated by commas and contained within the curly brackets. To define an empty set, I can use the set function, and I can check the type of the set to see that it is in fact a set. I can create a set using the appropriate syntax as well and check that that type is also a set. Now what happens, it's always good to see, can we loop through a set? Can we iterate through a set? Will the elements be recognized? So I'm hoping here to see apple, banana, cherry printed out in order. Yeah, that works as well. One thing we can't do is we cannot index a set. So I can't look for the first item in a set, or I get an error that says set object does not support indexing. So that is a method, or property I should say, that we cannot access with sets. Okay, so some set methods we can use. Here are two examples of ways we can add elements to sets. We kind of always care about how do we add items, how do we take away items. So to add an item to a set, we can use the add method, and we use that method when we want to add one item to the set. So if I just do create the set apple, banana, cherry, and then do ts.add, so this is a method, so I access it using dot notation. It's part of the set object. Then I see that I can actually add that item to the set. There's also an update method. So this will remind you of the append and extend methods that go with lists. They're fairly analogous. The update method allows me to add actually a list of items onto the set. So see how the argument for the update method is a list. So I can add all of those. It kind of works like extend. And you could try, it's always good to try customizing our notes to see if you can use other types of data collections, and it looks like I can add I can add using a tuple. What if I treated it like a set? Could I use the update method with a set? Yes, I can. So a list, a tuple, or a set are all appropriate, and there may be more, but that's a good place to kind of stop the video and check out what's possible when it comes to this method. So lots of places to customize your notes. And then we can look at a couple of ways to remove an individual item from a set. One of them returns an error, one of them does not. So let's see, if I use the remove, actually here's what I want to do. Let's do define TS and then remove apple. Okay. And that works just fine. What I meant to say here is that if I try to remove an item that is not part of the set, this method, the remove method, does give me an error. Okay, so it's always good to know when a method will return an error, when it doesn't, because sometimes there there are sometimes cases where we want to avoid errors in our program. So we'll choose a method that does not return an error. Okay, so to see another example of how to remove an item from a set, we'll take a look at discard. So we can use discard just as well as we can use the remove method, and then we can see that it works. It removes the apple from the set. This method is built not to give an error, right? There's no error associated with that mistake. So even though I'm trying to remove orange from the list, or from the set, I don't get an error. I just get the same set back. Now it might be good to think about what happens here. Let's investigate what happens when I use a number. I can't do that. It looks like maybe I think I can access items using their indices, but sets are not associated with indices. Even if I tried doing something like remove set and remove the item at index 1, that wouldn't work either because sets do not support indexing. So that's an error. Okay, so that's just a little look at some of the ways we can add and take away items from a set. Now, creating an empty set, I want to show you this because this is a common misunderstanding. So if I do D1 equals open close curly brackets, I might think I'm creating an empty set, but I'm not. So this is a small nuance we need to be aware of, because maybe you can tell what's going to happen here. That was the same way we used to create a dictionary. So we can't use that method to create a set. We always have to use the create set function, and then we get a set. So there we go. Okay, on to tuples. So a tuple is a collection that is ordered and unchangeable. In Python, tuples are written with round brackets or parentheses. Okay, so this is a case where we can create an empty tuple with the open close parentheses, and it will have the correct data type. Here we have an example creating a tuple that contains the string values apple, banana, cherry. I can check the type, I can print it, and let me also print the type, just so we can be absolutely sure, convincing ourselves of our data types. I am constantly checking data types. So let's also investigate, can we do indexing with tuples? Yes, good news, we can do that. We can access the first value, last value. So we're good to go there with indexing. But tuples actually have some limitations as well. We cannot add or remove items to or from tuples. So the nature of tuples doesn't allow us to make changes. So I will show you that. Let's take a look at some of these attempts. I usually like to do this line by line to show, okay, what if I try append? No, tuple does not have an attribute append. So I'm just going through all of the ways I know of to add or take away items or add items to a collection. I'm trying some of the list methods, trying to add orange. Nothing works. Okay. So, of course. So I'm just reinforcing the fact tuples are unchangeable. They are what they are. They're kind of just a picture of something, right? So we can't add or take away items, but we can use indexing. So let's try any of these. All right, so to try to remove, doesn't work. Try pop like we did with lists, that doesn't work. And discard isn't going to work either. Okay, so hopefully I've convinced you that tuples cannot be modified, but we can use indexing with them. Okay. Like I said, one of the homework problems is going to ask you to learn a little bit more about sets, and I highly recommend taking a look at this resource on W3 Schools, and you'll be asked to take a look at set operations, set methods, okay? And those are really interesting, okay? So you'll see methods such as intersection, you'll see symmetric difference, union, and these are things that that can make a program really efficient at times. So you can rely on set methods in some cases and avoid using a for loop, which in some scenarios is preferable. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for watching. Okay, hopefully that gives you a little bit of a taste of the properties and methods of sets and tuples.